The keys hit the counter before he finished talking. "Hand them over. You're done." That was it. No investigation, no warning, no evidence. Just Shane sliding a termination letter across the counter like he was returning a library book. And Jordan standing behind him with his arms crossed, nodding like he'd rehearsed this moment. I set the keys down. I didn't slam them. I didn't say a word. I picked up my bag, walked out the door, and called my mum. What they didn't know, what neither of them had thought to ask, was that I'd spent 3 years in financial compliance before this job. I knew exactly what a wrongful termination looked like, and I knew exactly what to do with one. They saw a part-time cashier at a betting shop. They didn't see someone who had memorized every employment law clause they'd signed off on. Shane was my line manager. Jordan was his manager. Between them, they had the power to end my job. That part they understood. What they hadn't bothered to figure out was what happened when someone with a paper trail, a forwarded email, and a very patient mother sat down to write a response. They made their move on a Tuesday morning in February. Mine came 12 days later. I'd been working at the betting shop for 6 months. Part-time, 20 hours a week, front of counter, the kind of job you take when you've just moved back to your hometown after university and need something while you figure out the next step. The shop was small, 4 staff total. Me, a long-time employee named Greg, a colleague named James at another branch, and Shane, who managed us all under Jordan's supervision. Jordan reported to the regional head of our holding company, a large international firm whose name appeared on every internal document we touched. I'd had no issues, no complaints, no formal warnings. In February, I was called in for what I was told was my 6-month probation review, standard procedure with a potential pay rise attached. I arrived to a disciplinary hearing. Shane read out 11 separate cash discrepancy accusations dating back to the first weeks of my employment, amounts ranging from a few pounds to over 60. Total alleged shortfall, £271, 36 pence. I had never been told about a single one. Not a word, not a note, not a pulled-aside conversation after a shift. 5 months of alleged misconduct, and no one had once mentioned it to my face. The decision had already been made. HR was called. I was terminated on the spot, told the decision was final and could not be appealed, and asked to hand over my keys. I handed them over. I walked to the bus stop. I opened my phone. I applied for jobs. By the time I got home, I had an interview scheduled. The discrepancies are documented. The pattern is clear. Shane said this without looking up from the folder. I asked when I had been informed about any of these discrepancies. That's not relevant to today's hearing. I asked who had documented them. Jordan stepped in. That information is internal. I asked whether I was entitled to see the evidence against me. The decision has been made. This is a formality. I said nothing else. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I had already started composing the email in my head. 12 days after I was fired, a letter arrived from the company's HR department. It confirmed the termination. It reiterated the accusations. It contained no new information, no evidence, and no formal documentation of any investigation having taken place. What it did contain, without realizing it, was the thing I needed: a written record of the company's position, in their own words, on company letterhead. My mum and I sat at her kitchen table for 2 hours. She had spent 20 years in HR, not at this company, but she knew the language. We went through the letter line by line. There were gaps, not subtle ones. The accusations had been logged in Shane's personal shift record, not in the formal incident documentation system, the company's own handbook required for investigations of this nature. I had never been placed under formal investigation, no written notice, no right of reply, no monitoring period. all of which were required by the company's own disciplinary procedure. I had been terminated for an alleged financial crime without a single step of the required investigative process being followed. There was more. The termination had been framed as non-appealable. That isn't legal. Under UK employment law, the right to appeal a disciplinary outcome is a statutory entitlement. Shane had told me otherwise to my face, in a room, in front of a witness. He hadn't thought I'd know that. He was wrong. We wrote back. 2 pages. Every procedural failure itemised by section and clause. Every statutory right that had been violated cited by name. A demand for a written apology and a clean reference with a guarantee that no mention of these accusations would appear in any future reference request. 48 hours to respond, or we escalate. The email went to HR, then to Jordan, then to his manager, then to the holding company's UK compliance inbox, which I'd found on their corporate website in about 4 minutes. I wanted everyone in that chain to read it at the same time. The response came back in 19 hours. Every demand met. Reference confirmed clean. Apology issued in writing. I forwarded it to my new employer, who had already offered me the job, and thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 3 months later, I was settling into my new role at a call centre. Double the hours, more than double the pay, when I spotted a face across the training room. Greg. Greg had been at the betting shop for 6 years. He was competent, reliable, well-liked by management. There was absolutely no version of events in which Greg had voluntarily left that job. I didn't approach him, not at first. But one afternoon in the break room, he came to me. He told me everything. What I hadn't known was that my email, specifically the compliance inbox copy, the one addressed to the holding company directly, had landed with people who took it seriously. A message came down from the holding company to Jordan's manager, the area manager. They wanted answers. They wanted an investigation. They wanted results. The area manager descended on our town. He went to Jordan first. The questions were straightforward. Why had the area manager not been informed of an ongoing cash discrepancy investigation? Why had a staff member under active accusation been given solo shifts and key access? And why had no formal investigative procedure been initiated? Jordan pointed at Shane. Shane had logged the discrepancies in his personal record book. He had marked me as under investigation in my employee file, but he had never filed a single form required to actually open that investigation through proper channels, which meant he had fired me for a crime he had never formally investigated, while simultaneously telling HR he had. He'd fabricated the paper trail, or rather, he'd fabricated enough of it to fire me, but not enough to survive scrutiny. The area manager took the list of dates and amounts from Shane's log and forwarded them to the company's security team. The betting shop's CCTV was outsourced to a private firm that monitored every branch remotely. They had archive footage going back years. The security team pulled the dates in question. I wasn't on them. But they found something else. The money had been disappearing. That part was real. The people taking it were Shane and James. They had been running a coordinated scheme across at least 2 branches. Shane was manipulating till reconciliations on the system, logging false counts to mask the shortfall at the end of shifts. James was doing the same at the other location. One of the methods Shane used, shortchanging customers on their winnings, taking a portion before it reached the counter, quietly, consistently. Most of the customers were older, regulars. They trusted the staff. The security footage showed it clearly. Greg told me he had opened the shop one morning after a shift Shane and I had closed together and noticed a cash difference. He'd been told by Shane not to say anything to me directly, that I was under investigation, and contact could compromise the process. He'd believed it. He apologized. I told him I didn't blame him. The area manager pulled 3 years of archive footage. Then the parent company pulled 3 years of cash reconciliation records. Shane and James had been at this for years. The estimates placed the total at just under £4,000 in confirmed documented theft. And that was only what the footage could verify. Both were terminated immediately. Then the parent company filed criminal charges. Greg told me that as of when we spoke, the case was still open, not because nothing had happened, but because investigators were still working out exactly how much had been taken. Shane had been there 10 years. James, 8. They were still counting. Jordan, who had allowed all of this to unfold under his watch, had failed to follow up on Shane's false documentation and had been present in the room when I was told I had no right to appeal, was investigated separately. He was let go within weeks. The area manager confirmed it to Greg's girlfriend, who worked at Jordan's location, before she came in one morning to find Jordan's name off the rota and his office cleared out. With Shane and James gone, Greg was the only staff member left at the main branch. He was also the only one available to cover. The branch couldn't operate with one person. They had no pipeline of replacement staff because they hadn't bothered to properly document why I'd left, which made the HR paperwork a mess. The main branch closed temporarily. Greg handed in his notice and applied to my company within the week. The subsidiary branch, the smaller location in the suburbs where James had worked, was already running on minimal staff. When the influx of displaced customers arrived from the main branch, the remaining employee there, a woman named Claire, found herself managing an impossible volume alone, with no support from management and no answers from anyone above her. She quit for her mental health. That branch closed too. Both branches shuttered in March, Cheltenham Festival month, the biggest single revenue event in the UK sports betting calendar, the kind of week that could account for a disproportionate share of a small town branch's annual income. Every other bookmaker on the high street stayed open. Ours didn't. The customers went somewhere else and kept going there. Both locations remained closed for over a year. Then Greg mentioned one more thing, a woman named Tammy. She'd worked at our branch just before I joined. She'd lasted slightly past probation before being terminated. For months of cash discrepancies she'd never been told about. The same pattern, the same manager, the same missing paperwork. Tammy's case was worse. During her time under Shane's management, she had been repeatedly left to handle aggressive customers alone, Shane refusing to intervene. She'd raised it. Nothing happened. Then she was fired. Then she had a miscarriage. She was suing the company. Wrongful termination, financial damages, and emotional distress. The case had escalated past the area manager's visibility. He didn't know the outcome, but he knew it hadn't gone away. I never went back to that high street. I didn't need to. The building had been empty for months before I stopped thinking about it. The area manager sent me a formal written apology. He confirmed Jordan was no longer with the company. He confirmed the investigation into Shane and James was ongoing. He said he was sorry for what had happened. I thanked him. I didn't say anything else. I'd written one email. I'd CC'd 4 people. I'd asked for a clean reference. The rest of it, the audit, the footage review, the charges, the closures, the lawsuits, that wasn't my plan. I didn't have a plan. I had a letter, a 48-hour window, and a mother who knew how to read an employment contract. What happened after that was just the system doing what it was designed to do. I watched from a distance. That was enough. If you've ever been walked out of a job for something you didn't do, drop it in the comments and ask yourself, did they give you 48 hours to respond? Or did they assume you'd just leave?